lunch today. I think people are excited for our speaker. Maybe a little too excited, because I like the microphone. How are we feeling today? Welcome to Creative Mornings. One thing, as I was preparing for today, that I realized I never do is introduce myself. I just kind of get up here and start talking. I'm Michael. I'm the local. I am the local host of Creative Mornings, our chapter here in Columbia, Missouri. Let's get a show of hands. How many people is this your first Creative Mornings? I see quite a few new faces. Awesome. Yeah. We like that. We've got an organizing team of about six to eight people that help put these events on. I'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but we're part of a larger global organization. And like I said, we have a local chapter here in Columbia. So, if this is your first Creative Mornings, which for many of you it is, there's always a theme, and this theme is a global theme. It is the theme that the speaker kind of crafts their talk around, but then we also do an icebreaker related to the theme, and the theme is picked by a local chapter each month. So this month's theme is Thread. It was chosen by the Derby chapter in the United Kingdom, again, a global organization. And when a chapter picks a theme, they have a local artist create the artwork for the theme. This art was done by Carla D, and it's presented by our global sponsor, Adobe. So, like I said, today's theme is Thread. We like to start. I feel like we've already broken the ice based on all the conversation, but hopefully we can bring it all together with a quick icebreaker. We're curious. How have threads appeared in your life recently? Whether as a connection between ideas, a sequence of events, or in your creative process. So, threads. Have you ever pulled on a loose thread in a sweater or sock? Things can unravel quickly. The creative process can feel like that. A nagging thought, an imperfect bit, or a big tangled mess. But maybe that thread is trying to tell you something. Follow it and see where it takes you. So, life event, connection between ideas, a sequence of events, or in your creative process, a thread, a through line, maybe, that you've discovered recently. Does anybody have any threads in their life that they've kind of put together, put two and two together, connect some dots?
That's a tough question.
It is. It's almost like you gotta prepare for this.
Make us think for early morning.
Part of this may be due to the fact that I just genuinely like talking to people, so I perhaps am talking to this many people, but I have this weird thing where I'll be out in the world and I'll just randomly kind of run into someone that I've met previously in a really weird spot, and was just talking to someone else about that, like how they kind of connected with someone. Maybe they were from the same spot where they were born, I think Zambia or is where you were mentioning, and then come to Missouri, and then you end up kind of rekindling and meeting someone that you grew up with. And so that has happened to me multiple times in my life where I've been in the city and I've been like, oh my god, we went to high school together, we ran together in a store, and it's just kind of rekindled these relationships. So that's something, an interesting thread of how people kind of pop into your life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of that, I was just speaking to the other Furman in the room. Yeah, and I literally used that term when I was talking about ancestry and finding your history and pulling on the thread, and I used that exact term when I was talking about.
Wait, are y'all related? Have we?
No.
Is this a moment? We're together, all as one?
Well, now it is.
Yeah.
So I've been coming here since May, and I've always sat in the back, in the corner, hugging the wall. Even at 4th Street, I'm on the couch at the door, ready to leave. And it's really interesting that this year, I feel like I've been that thread, weaving my way through Columbia doing different things. And now, having someone come up to me, oh, I saw your stuff at this other place. I'm like, you have? No, yeah. Or yesterday, earlier this week, I went to a class, website class, and then the lady there was like, oh, oh yeah, I remember you because you did stuff at soul sessions. So I was like, you remember me?
Yeah.
People see me? So it was like now all of the strings that I've woven in the community are starting to come together as a fabric instead of just being like random spurts here and there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Feels like a mess. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it's just time almost, right? It's just time. It's like, oh wait, it was worth doing that thing back in March or last year or something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
My grandmother was the hostess, the mostest. She would plan dinner parties very carefully, you know, somebody who knows this, who will be interested to talk to that, and who is gonna meet. And she owes somebody an invitation, and I realized this town is a good place for threads and meeting things together, because I realized I just don't even try. I just invite whoever I'm just gonna invite, and it'll turn out they went to high school together, and that's her paper boy, and you know, it's just. So this town is small enough that you do run into people over and over, and then people come back, so you can make these connections.
Yeah, one more.
So I did an event in Jeff City yesterday. It was a holiday mart, and one of the first customers that came by saw my sign. My sign just says J.L. Shepherd, and she's like, "Are you Jamie?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't have that on a sign anywhere." And she's like, "I'm so and so," and I was like, "Oh my God, you were my second grade teacher."
Oh,
And then I found out she's like, "Yeah, I had your niece and your nephew back when they were in first grade a couple years ago."
Oh wow.
It was just the most random thing.
Yeah.
So.
There is something, Mid-Missouri, to Anne's point, Mid-Missouri does that. I'm sure we all have a lot of those threads, most of which we're happy about, maybe some. Not so much. So, like I mentioned, global organization. Derby chapter in the United Kingdom came up with a thread theme. There's 243 chapters, /cities. That's up from like 4 from last month. So yeah, we're growing quite a bit. In fact, there's a lot of people meeting right now. We got the Tucson chapter, we got the Phoenix chapter, San Diego, Seattle, San Francisco, Hong Kong. I can't read that one. But yeah, so many people meeting today, November 15th. It's really cool, and everyone's talking about Thread. Want to give some shout outs to our sponsors. First of all, the Mont Mini Gallery, where we are right now. Great spot. As you notice, there's a lot of installations here. All of this stuff is for sale, actually. So this is the annual holiday event at the Mont Mini. Afterwards, as we're mingling and everything, feel free to take a look and reach out to Angela here in the back if you are interested in purchasing anything. But special thank you to the Mont Mini. They make it so easy for us to host events here, and it's always different every time we come in here. It's a different space. So very cool. Second shout out is to Adobe. So like I mentioned, our new global sponsor. This was actually just announced very recently at their Adobe Max event. Like we actually got like a legit shout out. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Our partnership was made official at Adobe Max, an annual conference and global celebration of creativity. This partnership was announced on stage not once but twice. Tina, the founder of Creative Mornings, was interviewed on stage, was part of the keynote, and was sharing how magical Creative Mornings is. Which, if you've been to a Creative Mornings event, you know that magic I'm talking about. There's a feeling you get as you leave here, kind of just like puts a little pep in your step for the day ahead. So hopefully you feel that as you leave today. If you indulge in any coffee or donuts, you got one person, well, I guess one company to thank. Russell built, and in fact, Emmett is here today. Highly recommend. So if you don't leave here feeling motivated, I've got a solution for you. A couple months ago, Emmett was up here speaking, and he gave definitely the most motivational speech we've ever had here at Creative Mornings. Shout out to the back. Yeah. Main message, just go. Just do the thing. Do the thing you've been wanting to do, that you talked about doing, that you started doing and stopped doing. Highly recommend If you just go to the Creative Mornings website, you go to our chapter, you can watch that video online. So highly recommend you check it out. And also Russellville on Instagram, one of my favorite follows. They do awesome stuff. If you are not familiar with Russellville, they're local to Columbia and they do some baller stuff. I'll just say that. A lot of things around town, if you go on their Instagram, you'll see things and you'll be like, wait a second, the Columbia sign downtown? Oh, the sign at Flyover? All these things comes from one place right here in Columbia, Missouri. So we love our sponsors, and we like more sponsors. So if you're interested in sponsoring, if you're interested in getting your brand out, whether you're a company or a solopreneur or an artist, whatever it may be, if you're interested in sponsoring, you can reach out to us at columbia@creativemornings.com. All right, so for those of you, this is your first event. Before we get going, we read the Creative Mornings Manifesto, which kind of just like, it gets us in the mood a little bit. I'm gonna just go ahead and read it today, because I really want to get to our speaker. Usually I pick on the audience and have someone else read it, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it today. It's been a minute. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty, and hard work. We're here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome. All right, so as we get into our speaker, I will ask Sarah to make a quick intro. Here she comes.
Starts eating donuts.
Well, good morning again, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. Thank you again for joining us at our last event of the year. That's wild. As already mentioned, this month's theme is thread, and we're celebrating the connections and the legacies that we create. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Lisa Driskel Hawxby, also fondly referred to as LDH. A true artist of threads, both literal and metaphorical. Throughout her work, Lisa weaves together reclaimed materials, sentimental items, and natural elements, creating personalized art that honors connection, memory, and individuality. In a throwaway society, her creations are reminders of the beauty found in carefully crafted, lasting details. Please join me and us in welcoming Lisa from Embellish.
So if you know me at all, you know I talk with my hands, and so managing a microphone and the clicker and all the things, it could get a little wild. But I mean, again, those that know me would not expect any less. And I'm not sure really how my name got brought up or what kind of committee actually like decides on who should speak. But I think it might be noted that they may have had a temporary lapse in judgment. Because in full disclosure, I have a tough time regulating my voice. Thank you, COVID. I am very comfortable in talking about things, even my business, that are outside of me as a person. And I am on the last couple of days before my next hormone replacement therapy appointment. And so, I mean, I'm full of all the emotions. And so see, those middle-aged ladies who probably also are doing that are like, oh yeah, I know how that feels. And so I just want you all to just be very aware that I am very aware that I am right here in life. And so this could take a lot of interesting turns. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to, should I take this out? You're going to get one of these, and you're going to get one of these. And so this is what I want. And so as I go through today, whatever I'm talking about, if there is something that speaks to you, gives you a little, you know, sometimes there's that little thing that maybe hits you here, or hits you here, or hits you here, and you're like, oof, I want you to pass that thread. And then the next person, when it hits you, I want you to pass that along. And we'll get to why later. A lot of life is not really knowing what the hell is going on in the moment, but then really figuring out that there was a plan. And so I have a plan, and in the event my plan doesn't really work out, if you all don't know what the end result should be, then you don't really care. I don't have to tell you. So the thread is the weaving of my creative journey. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today. So I grew up in a little tiny town south of St. Joseph, Missouri. I say South St. Joseph because if I tried to explain to you where it was, you would have never heard of it before. But a pretty small, pretty conservative place. My parents were transplants there because of their work, and they were really not ingrained in the community in the beginning, because when you move to some place that's a little bit closed off, you just try to find your own way, and my dad worked at a factory. And so they did a really good job of creating a life for us in a place that they were unfamiliar with themselves. So the interesting thing about when I came along, most of you hopefully recognize this as the Grinch, right? Two sizes too small. Well, I grew up in a very pragmatic and practical family, and I'll tell you a little bit about why that was. But I was the opposite of this. Out comes me, and I have a heart that is way too large, but also worn heavily on my sleeve. And so I come into this world, this pragmatic, practical world, and I don't fit in immediately. This is a very blurry picture of my mom. What I didn't realize at the time growing up was that she was me, but because her life circumstances, she became very structured. She became pragmatic, she became practical, because it was a way to survive. She and my father both had a really difficult childhood, and their whole mission in life was to create the stability and the comfort for my sister and I that they never received. So, unbeknownst to me, here's a parent who's trying to parent a child who is probably bringing up a lot of things for them, but is also trying to do what they believe is the right thing. So, it's my first entry into square peg, round hole. Square peg, round hole in my family, but I thought square peg in the round hole of the community that I grew up in, and so immediately I started to really notice that I was the weird kid. And that's when things kind of started becoming unraveled. I became really, really interested in being a pleaser. And so I really wanted people to like me, I wanted to do well, and I wanted to succeed. And so my mom, you gotta hang on to the thread.
Okay.
Yeah. If you hang on, and then when you say something, and then when something hits you, you pass it on, but you have to hang on to your piece. So, along with that practical, pragmatic household was the understanding that because my parents never went to high school, graduated high school, but didn't graduate from college, that I was going to graduate from college. And so I was actually taught to read and was reading fairly well when I went into kindergarten. So I'm jumping into kindergarten, and I enter school, and I'm amazed and delighted, right? School is a place where there are all kinds of interesting things on the wall. I was really lucky to have a super awesome kindergarten teacher, and I am still trying to be a pleaser. I'm trying to make some friends, and I'm still feeling a little bit like I'm not fitting in. Can I get a Kleenex? Apparently my nose is going to drip the whole time. So, I enter school, I'm doing well academically. I go into first grade, and I meet this woman, and her name is Mrs. Terry, and she's my first grade teacher. And she is dressed to the nines. She could have worked at any corporate, anywhere. She wore a dress every day, thank you. She wore heels every day, and I loved her. When you're from a practical and pragmatic family, fashion doesn't necessarily matter. But it had always mattered to me. And here was this woman who was coiffed and presentable, and probably not very related to most first graders. And as much as I wanted her to appreciate me, I was completely crushed when all of my academic marks were awesome, and the only comment was that I had a really messy desk. And so in second grade, I also in my family was you mind your manners and you don't get in trouble. And if you get in trouble at school, you get in trouble twice as much at home. I have never been super awesome at math. I have not been super awesome at the hard sciences. And so in second grade, I got caught cheating on a math test. And I was taken into the hall and given a SWAT. I was actually looking, from a second grader's perspective, I was looking at my neighbor's paper to try to figure out if, because I didn't understand what the problem was, if by looking at what they were doing, I could figure it out. And so again, that whole idea of you just don't fit. You're not fitting in with what the norm is. And I'm old school, so I have everything written down on paper. So the good news is we get to fourth grade. And it's the first time that I felt one of my threads kind of tuck in. You know, they talked earlier this morning about a sweater unraveling, and I almost brought a sweater to unravel, but I just didn't have a chance to make it to the thrift store. But, you know, sweaters, there's like those little places where it actually tucks in. It's kind of the start of something, or when you're knitting or crocheting, there's kind of that little knot that kind of just tucks in. So the first time I felt like I was getting tucked in was in fourth grade when one of my friend's fathers, who was a creative writer, came to class and started talking to us about creative writing. And we wrote, and he critiqued our writing, and he said, "You can really tell a story." And it was the first time that I thought, holy smokes, I can do something that a lot of the other kids kind of sucked at, right? Because that had been my experience up until then, right? I was the one that could do the things that nobody else could do, but nobody really cared about those things, right? In art class, nobody cares if you're awesome in art class. And I wasn't really even awesome in art class because it was very prescriptive, and I was not really, like, that was not my jam. So I start getting really excited, and quite honestly, I start to feel some relief. And it's the first time that I can remember going to bed with any regularity and feeling like, I think there's a spot for me. There's somebody else that can kind of see that I matter, that I fit. And let's be clear, I had a great home life. My parents were kind and wonderful. It's not like I was being told that I didn't fit there. It was just that inner feeling. So I move on to elementary school, and I get to middle school, and we're not even going to talk about middle school because it's a disaster for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing, because you are a human chemistry set happening, and you know, you're never going to be the best looking. I certainly wasn't going to be the athlete, and nobody's doing well in school because the teachers are just trying to hang on and not kill you, right? So we're not even going to cover middle school. So we get to high school, and again, I told you I went to a really small school. We did not have a structured gifted program, but our high school faculty came up with a program called Gifted Class, and it's called Special Projects. And you had to do 3 things in order to be in this Special Projects class. The first thing that you had to do was take an IQ test, and then you had to provide some work, and then you had to have an interview panel. And I was really, really, really certain. When you go to a small school also, it's also good and bad that you see your teachers at the grocery store. You probably go to church with them, right? So everybody knows you. And let's be clear, I feel like I'm kind of likable, right? I'm a little odd, but I'm kind of likable. And so I was super convinced that I probably had no IQ and that I really only got into special projects because they did not want to have to explain to my mother after the interview process why I did not get into the special projects class. But at any rate, I got in, and that felt really affirming, except for, do you see this right over here? Kind of how the thread, it's threaded in the needle, but it's a little messy. And so everybody in my class are my friends. And interestingly enough, I'm a sophomore at this point, the class is pretty evenly divided between sophomores and seniors. I don't know what was wrong with those freshmen and juniors, but apparently they weren't cutting the mustard. And so everybody starts on their project plan. And they're doing these crazy math calculations and all these chemistry experiments, and all these things, and they ask me, well, what am I going to do? And my first project was I created a pop-up, you know the old pop-up books?
Yeah.
I created a pop-up music video.
Cool.
And so, interestingly enough, all these kids who are going to the math bowl and all this other crap that I'm never going to go to are now coming over and asking if they can help me with my project. And again, we're all friends. When you're in a small school, everybody does everything. So they're like, we don't know how she got in here, but we like her, so we're going to. So I kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to figure this out. High school is pretty grand. Again, when you go to a small school, everybody gets to be in the play. Everybody gets to, go to the games. Everybody gets to do everything. So I was like, this is pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. And then we get to early adulthood. I don't know how long a rough patch should last, but I feel like pretty much I had a rough patch from 18 to 40. I went to college and discovered that I had what now would be called diagnosable anxiety, and I would probably be on a bunch of different meds and in lots of therapy. But at that point, I went to class. I was deathly afraid of driving, so I had friends that would drive me back and forth to work, and I just hunkered down and got that degree because I was the first person that was going to get a degree in my college, in my family, and that was going to be really important. Well, the problem with that is that I really did not want to do what my degree was in. I had a hard time finding a job. I had a hard time finding something that fit. And so I kind of was in no man's land for a very long time. I felt very lost. Nothing fit quite right. It was kind of like, the tag on, sometimes you buy something and the tag is really bothering you. You can't really figure it out, but it just keeps bothering you. That's really how I felt between 18 and 40. And I kind of moved into those practical ways of being creative. I was the crazy auntie that did the art classes with my friends' kids because my friends did not want to get dirty. I decorated for every holiday. I did those practical things that were acceptable. But a big part of that time, I would go to bed at night hoping that I wouldn't wake up because it just didn't fit. And so, as you all know, managing life can be hard. So you're managing life and you're trying to make everything, because I'm also the happy-go-lucky one in my family, right? I'm the one that's having the parties, I'm the one hosting the holidays, I'm the one taking care of my friends, and so I'm doing all this, and I just feel like my tag is always scratching me, and I can't quite get it figured out. I have jobs, I'm pretty good at them, but it just is just weird, right? I don't fit. And so I just keep plugging along because that's what we do in life. And it never occurred to me how much of my life I was sacrificing just by trying to get by. Oh, apparently I'm out of order. maybe a little longer now. We go on this adventure. Oh, I will have to say, if my husband was here and I talked about the rough patch, and we did get married during that rough, but he was highlighting the rough patch. There are a lot of people out here that know him, so please know that, yeah, good Lord. I do like to give him a hard time though. But yes, so yeah, he was a highlight in the rough patch. Now, sometimes he is the rough patch, but that's a whole different talk on a different subject that, we'll talk about another day. So, about 14 years ago, we decided that it was time to move on from St. Joe. We had lived in Little Rock for a while, we had moved back to St. Joe, and it was time for a great adventure. We moved to Portland, and for those of you all that also know, my husband and I owned Dogmaster Distillery for about a decade, and that's where that idea was born. And although Portland didn't work out for us, the opportunity to be with a lot of other weird people was really awesome for me. Because they were way weirder than I was. And so for the first time, I was like, woo, I'm kind of in that median. Like, I'm like in that middle section. Like, I'm walking down the street and people are like, well, she's just an everyday person. So I thought that was really awesome. Our adventure in Portland didn't work out. I had the opportunity to work at the university, and so we came to Columbia. And let me tell you, it's a little weird too, but in the most awesome way. And so we came to Columbia, and we were like, okay, what's this gonna look like? We've lived in other places, some places much more friendly and welcoming than others, and we're like, let's give Columbia a try. Well, Columbia was the first place we've ever lived in where I felt like my core values were affirmed. And these were the core values in my business, but more importantly, they're my personal core values. I truly believe in the genuine connection with others. I believe in sharing creativity with others. I believe in bolstering confidence in others, especially in women. And I believe that true success only comes through collaboration. So we get here, and almost immediately, people are like, hey, where are you from? Tell us your story. And then, when we decide we're going to open the distillery, there are a lot of curious people, and so they're like, hey, who are you? Tell us your story. And people are like, oh my gosh, you all are kind of cool. And let me tell you, when two weirdos get married, a weirdo plus a weirdo does not equal cool, normal people. And so, as much as it was comfort for me, it was also really wildly comforting and happy place for Van as well. And so, Columbia is our home. So this kind of, at some point when you know you need to do something, but you're not quite sure what it is, there comes a point where your internal self says it's now or never. And so I have a little timeline on how I got to my business that we're going to talk about in my art. And that really started, honestly, and I hate to give him credit, but it did start with Van. And so when he had the courage to say, you know what, we're going to do something that's never been done in Missouri. We're going to do it to the highest standard. We're not going to be illegally doing it in our basement before we get started, which is what a lot of people do. We're going to do everything the right way. Everything is going to be touched by our hands. And there's going to be no bullshit other than what comes out of my mouth when I'm talking to customers. I said, okay, that seems like a lot. I'm not sure, right? Because I still have that practical, pragmatic, like, what if? And what that did for me was it allowed me to see that you can and should get out of your comfort zone. And you can and should try things for the sake of trying them. Obviously, we want it to be wildly successful, make bazillions of dollars, and just like Tito's, like right off into the sunset and have somebody buy us and all the kinds of things. But really what we wanted to do was to create something that we could share with others. And I feel like we really did that. Well, that leads me into getting more involved just in Columbia in general. So in 2020, I sat on the Commission for Cultural Affairs. I didn't even know that that existed, but because we were situated in the North Village Arts District, I became aware of that, and someone suggested that it would be a really good opportunity for me to learn more about what's happening in Columbia and have an influence on some of our public art. That led to me joining the North Village Arts District Board, and then as our business kind of evolved, we decided that we really wanted to think about our ancillary products, our swag, if you will, in a different way. And that was my department. I didn't have a lot of departments. I didn't want a lot of departments at Dogmaster, but that was my department. And so we were very intentional, probably the only bar, tasting room in town that actually recycled everything. Like we would take like loads and loads of the bottles and things like, we're the only people doing that. We're really meticulous about most of our grains are being taken to a farm to be repurposed. Like we're really thoughtful about that repurposing project. And I was like, but there are a few things that could still be repurposed and we could really have fun with. And so I created a line of products called Dog Mistress Essentials. And so I made soap with our spent grains, I made hand-poured candles, I made a lot of things using products that may otherwise have been discarded from the distillery. And I'd always been creative, but this was kind of my thing, right? And so I got to brand it, I got to figure that out, I got to work with it, and it was ancillary and it was small, so it wasn't scary. And it really helped me to kind of think about how much I missed and enjoyed the artistic process, and that maybe I did have something to give. Well, then in January 2022, I have a great friend, her name is Denise Clark, and you all may know her. She has Curations 573, and for a long time, she actually had a small art gallery in the front of her space. And she said, Lisa, you need to have a show. And I'll be like, sure I do, whatever, absolutely. And then at one point she said, I am signing you up and you're going to show your work, which I didn't have any, in January. And I thought, oh Lord, I gotta get to work. What am I even gonna do? So I just started doing what I had been doing, but just on a more robust scale. And a big piece of my work, and we're gonna talk about this, all of my pieces of art actually have a story to tell. And again, part of the threads of life. And that is because our lives are a series of stories that we put together. Our lives are like one big long novel with lots of chapters. Some of those chapters are really short, some of them are really long, some of them are beautiful and kind and wonderful, and then some of them are really hard to bear. And so I worked up the courage, and I cannot tell you how badly my stomach hurt the day the show opened. Right? People know of me, and we're kind of public figures because of the business we were in, but I am really, truly a very private person, and so the idea that people would actually get to see the things about me that are not always pretty or comfortable or have that happy-go-lucky, she's the person that takes care of everything, was really unnerving. And it was awesome. And every piece sold.
Wow.
And there's some people in this room that I will not talk about because then I will be crying again, that supported every step of the way, encouraged, and said, you've got something here. I think probably the highest compliment came from an artist that I truly, truly respect. I don't know how many of y'all know Shannon Solder. She is a painter and she is phenomenal. And she said, I have to have a piece of your work in my home because it speaks to me. And she said, don't ever doubt that you are an artist. And I thought, okay. So that led into a couple of other things. I have some friends with the Columbia Art League, and Kelsey got a hold of me and said, you're going to put something in the tiny show, and Ann Merrifield, who's needed to go but was on the board, said, yes, you will. And I did that, and I was like, oh no, because this is one thing, right? It's one thing when you have a small gallery and it's all your work, and the people come in are like, oh, we think we might like her, and so we're just going to come and be nice. It's a whole different thing when you have work in a place where all these other artists are showing their work, and you're like, oh, well, yours might suck in comparison to theirs. And so, and either she really loved it or she just wanted to make sure I was affirmed about my piece of art. And I thought, okay, we're going to do this. So then in January 2024, I officially launched Embellished. I decided that we wrapped up Dogmaster, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do and how I wanted my world to look. And the voice inside of me said, it's your turn. And so we launched Embellished, I launched Embellished, and Embellished is a creative endeavor that has lots of facets to it. I do a lot of design work, and so I do wedding design. I'm not an event coordinator. I don't care who sits by who, but I really want to make your event be very special and a reflection of you. I embellish everything I can get my hands on. So today I'm wearing a jacket that I've embellished. I do handbags. I have a whole hat series, and then I do mixed media art. And so we're going to talk a little bit about my art and everything, because the beauty about my work is that I do use repurposed materials. And I tell people, I save a lot of things from the landfill. And I can tell you this, once people start knowing that you want to repurpose things, they have all kinds of things that they would like to have repurposed, but because they don't want to throw it in the landfill either, but they don't know what to do with it. And so I've had every kind of crazy story from my grandma died and we're cleaning out her house, or we're moving, or I just thought you might like this. And I'm like, yeah, I've now become the goodwill of the community, because people are like, maybe she can do something with that. But this is what I tell people. That item had a life before it was going to be discarded. I'm creating something with it, and if it goes to your home, you have the opportunity to continue its legacy. Now, doesn't that feel good? We live in a throwaway society, and we have the opportunity to change that. I often say, gone are the days of keeping up with the Joneses. Now it's keeping up with the Kardashians and whatever $29.99 thing they're selling on QVC today. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help us think about, how do we take those things that we think, I'm not sure about, and we really move them forward in a way where we can enjoy them and appreciate their first life and continue their legacy. So all my pieces that I make have a story. And so when you get a piece, you get the story with it. This one is called Winter's Call Ode to Fran. Fran, I only met once. Fran was the roommate of my mother and father-in-law, and they have a little community garage sale every year. And so 2 years ago, I went to the community garage sale. Fran's next door to my mother and father-in-law, who live very close to us, which is its own, again, I could have a whole talk about that. But we talked to Fran. Fran was an artist in her own right, and we had a lovely short conversation. Fran wanted to know what I was going to do with some of these materials, and I explained to her, and she threw in a couple more things, so I got a really good deal at that garage sale. And the next day, my husband's parents called us and said, Fran's passed away. She had had some issue overnight, and I thought, I got really lucky because I got to meet Fran. And so when I created this piece with a lot of Fran's materials, I felt like it just made sense. And so it says, some say that winter steals the life from spring, summer, and autumn. Branches bare, life retreats, hibernation begins. There are opportunities for transcendence. Our spirit navigates outside of time or space. And are you listening for winter's call? So that's the story behind this piece. This piece is very personal. It's from, if you all are familiar at all with this song that Miranda Lambert sings, The House That Built Me. I'm very lucky to have memories of my childhood home. My parents built it, and we moved in the summer before I started kindergarten. My dad sold our home this summer that my mom passed away. I understood his need for a change in scenery. They had lived there together for 35 years, and she permeated every inch of that house. I grieved it all the same. It's hard to lose a person in a home at the same time. I drove by the house often and would cry every time I heard Miranda Lambert sing this song. I may have never realized the impact that that house and those memories had on me. You leave home, you move on, and you do the best you can. I got lost in this whole world, and I forgot who I am. I thought if I could touch this place or feel it, this brokenness inside me might start healing. Out there, it's like I'm someone else. I thought that maybe I could find myself. If I could walk around, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but a memory from the house that built me. I've done a lot of healing since then and can appreciate the journey. Our childhood homes contribute greatly to our experience. I am so fortunate to have such great memories there. And so my art is really a depiction of life. And that is really important to me. And the best thing that it's done is it's healed me. Going the wrong way. Because the full circle moment that I had was when I was putting together my business and someone said, "We love your work, but we want you." And so we want you to also have an option for us to have you to come to our house and have an LDH experience. And so that can mean anything from teaching you how to make a floral arrangement. I still make really good cocktails, I can teach you that too. But just showing up and be present. And so for me, the fact that someone would want the LDH experience made me think, I have arrived. And so, I say all this because life is full of threads. You all have them. We all weave them. They're in everything. You look around this room, literally and figuratively. It's all threaded together. We're all threaded together. Even those of us that feel discarded, not up to snuff, not fitting in, it's all one thread. And so what I want to leave you with today is that your thread matters. And you have the opportunity to tuck in, to tie in, like that sweater you're wearing, to somebody else's thread and to make a really incredible piece of work. And that work is your everyday life. It's not some big thing that you're trying to achieve at the end. There's no big prize at the end. The prize is the threads that you're weaving today. And if this weird kid from a small town in St. Joe, Missouri, can meet some other weird kid and do something crazy in a town that they've never really been to before, and make an impact and have a new dream, just think about what you can do. So, enjoy your threads. You're going to get to cut them and keep that piece, and I want you to keep that piece of yarn or twine or whatever I scared up for my studio this morning. And I want you to put somewhere where you can remember how important your thread is to us and how important it is to weave your thread with others. Thank you.
We do have a few minutes for questions,
Yes,
if you
yes, I
don't
would
mind.
love it.
Otherwise we're all leaving together.
Who's got questions? Who's got questions for Lisa?
Well, I just held something which is very related. Some friends and I are starting a creative reuse center in Columbia. And so that's a thread that relates exactly to this. So we'll be doing classes to do exactly what you're talking about, help people learn how to use recycled stuff and repurpose recycled things. So if anybody does come to you with a garage or an attic full of crap that you don't want, you can pass on to us and we will get it back out into the community. Hopefully we'll have a space soon. So an announcement may be coming soon.
Well, I would really love that because I've been full.
Yes.
And it's really hard over the years to have been the bad person to really, my husband's a collector, he's a memento collector, to be like, why do we have all this shit? And now he's like, and why do we have all this shit? So, and I have a hard time saying no, especially when somebody was like, this is from my grandma's house, and I'm like, I should take it. So it's good to know that, my very small space is overflowing, so I love that. I would love to partner and help in any way that I can.
Well, mine's not as profound or deep, but I do wonder I almost was gonna ask, what do you need? What do you work with the most? But what I would like to know is what you enjoy working with the most. Like I'm sure it all lights you up, but like what's the material or even the story or even both that you get really excited about working with?
Honestly, it just depends. I work really erratically because I do work across a lot of mediums and I do a lot of different things. I can be working on multiple projects at the same time. And so, and that's very helpful. It's terrible whenever I'm working on getting a lot of business coaching because I'm really bad at that part. And business coaches want you to like time everything out and like write all these things. And I'm like, but I'm not, if I'm up at 3:00 in the morning and I'm in my studio and I'm not thinking about turning on the timer. And then because what happens to me a lot is I start working on this project and I remember I have this material over here and I know I want to get started on that project, so then I'll go grab this material. And so now every flat surface, including the floor of my very small studio, has projects on it because I'm like, oh, and then at some point I have to tell myself, you have to finish something. Because I will say some of my larger projects that I do will creep out into the kitchen counter and the dining room and things like that. So I do have to have a limit. It's very organic. And obviously if I'm contracted to do work, that has to take a priority. But what I really just enjoy doing is what do I feel like doing? What talks to me? And then I just start working on that project.
Do you wait till the last minute to work on something that's due?
I am really good about getting started on something that's due. And then, I don't know if it's my own hang up or whatever, but right then I lose that. I have tried to push through projects to get them done. And then rarely, if ever, am I satisfied and I end up undoing them and redoing them, which then takes twice the amount of work. So, yes. And sometimes quite honestly, depending upon what it is, if I'm just doing it to like put it in like a retail partner, that's a whole different thing. Like if I'm doing it, if it's a specific job for a specific person, that fear of failure, right? They're not gonna like this. What am I doing? Right? All that starts to happen, and then we get bumped up to like literally. There have been times where I've been working on something where I literally said the last time I wore one of my first pieces, I really wanted to be out like when I was doing apparel, like literally like the paint was probably drying on the dress when I was walking out because it was all of that. What if people think this is terrible? So yes, I'm very.
Do you set dates for your own projects, or do you just go by what people want?
I try to set dates, especially as I'm trying to grow, because I know that, one of the things Van's really great about telling me is you can't sell if you don't have inventory. And so I have to set dates because, I can also get, analysis paralysis, right? What's gonna sell, what's not gonna sell, what should I make, do people want this, all that kind of stuff. And so I just start like blocking time, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna work on something.
So it makes it easier for you if you have a direction from somebody that wants something from you versus you just going in there and making something that you dream up.
A little bit. So how my process works is if you're contracting me to do anything, whether it's so Ann Merrifield was in the back. I just did my first big wedding. I did all the floral arrangements, the tablescapes, everything. If you want me to do something for you, whether it's a hat or anything, we have a discovery meeting. Because the idea is that I want it to reflect you. So I'm gonna ask you a lot of weird questions, and you're gonna be like, right, I don't care about what color. If you have a favorite color, I'll probably ask that. But really, other than that, like, if you want it to look like Hobby Lobby threw up on it, I'm fine with that, but that's not me, right? So I'm gonna ask you things like, tell me about your best memory with so-and-so. Or like, tell me if I'm gonna do some holiday decor design for you. Talk to me about like, what's your favorite tradition? And then I get all those feels, and then I work from those, which is a really weird process for people. That even artists that do a lot of contract work, right? They're like, and so it takes a lot of trust on my customer's part. And again, that's where the anxiety comes in, because I'm like, well, what if I fail miserably? But I also am pretty upfront with, this is not cookie cutter, and you're gonna have a lot of feels in your project when it's done.
I don't have a question, but I'll share. When you asked like what she likes to get, so back in February, I gave Lisa this necklace that I envisioned like she would just put it away somewhere and eventually would tear it apart and use pieces from it here and there. So then, fast forward to last night, we have a very close friend who suffered a heart attack. 40 when she had her heart attack, and we were supporting her through American Heart Association campaign. And Lisa, talk about threads. So here's our dear friend, survived a heart attack. She takes this necklace that I gave her just randomly. She embellishes it, makes it our friend, and our friend wore it last night at the American Heart Association. So you talk about threads. That is how she thinks.
Because everything has energy. And so, and we have a lot of, it is getting increasingly okay for people to spread negative energy. And that is very concerning to me. And there's not a lot I can do about it, except for to try to create a lot of good energy, not just in how I go about my daily life, but also in my products, because I feel like if that has tons of good energy in it and it goes into your home, it can't help but kind of emanate out onto your space and hopefully create some good energy, or combine with your already good energy and create even more good energy. That's the only way that I know how to be okay with the fact that there are a lot of hurting people in this world that are feeling ever more comfortable with sharing their hurt in very divisive ways.
Where can people learn more about Embellished and work with you and all that good stuff?
So in all my craziness, I was told, because my work is so personal and it's really hard to explain, that I need a website. And so I now have a website. Thank you to, big thanks, she's already gone, but Brandy Herman also works with me in my day job. And so she talks me down off the ledge a lot. And so if you are at all interested, and I have business cards. It is embellishedbyldh.com. And so it just kind of gives you a sense of the things that I can do. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I am working on Pinterest. And Lord help me, TikTok. Because somebody said, your stories are good. You need to be on the TikTok. And then also, which I laugh at because I just now got a TikTok account. And then my hope is that because I have rock stars that are willing to help me do all the things I'm not good at, I'm gonna get my Etsy store stood up this weekend.
Nice. Yeah, we all need an LDH masterclass. Sign up for. So in your free time, Lisa, you know.
Yeah, which we have a lot of, and we know that, so whatever you've got, we'll take.
So if you're interested in getting a card, I have them. And I promise I'll go wash my hands before I shake your hand since I've been, doing all this with my nose. And I do really appreciate the fact that, nobody seemed to mind if my voice was crazy. So my voice is crazy sometimes, but then whenever I get emotional, it's even more crazy. And,
You sounded great.
thanks. I'll absolutely ask for more, whatever hormone that I ran out of obviously too soon the next time I get my permits.
All right, let's give it up for Driskel Hawxby.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Like Sarah mentioned, we are off next month, but you can always find us the third Friday of every month, except for next month. Yeah, follow us on social media. CM Columbia, I think, is our handle. But yeah, thank you all for coming out. Have a good day.
And I know there were some people earlier who mentioned that they were interested in purchasing. We're gonna have somebody at the front desk to help you if you find something that you like. I know.
I don't know if I captioned this right, but she said,